In this tutorial, we'll be talking about dimensions and how we can change them, measure them, etc. So currently we just have our front view and we don't have any object here that we can measure. So let's create one. So I'll only be sketching on the top face, so I don't really need to see the rest of the things. So what I'm gonna do is in my model tree, I'm gonna select the right plane and I'm gonna select this option, which is a hide option. There's also Control H as a shortcut. Similarly, I can select, I don't need the front face, so I'm just gonna deselect it. And then for my saved orientations, I'm gonna view from the top. So now this is the plane that I am seeing essentially, and I can zoom in, zoom out. But yeah, I'd rather just press this button so that it refits it to my whole screen. So I press this button, if you can see here. So now I have a surface on which I can sketch something. So and make an object. So let's make a rectangle. So I go to model, sketch. Now it asks me what plane you want to make it on. I select the top plane and it asks me for a reference and I tell it to sketch. Now the sketch menu appears here in the ribbon above and I can now make a rectangle. So I want to make a center rectangle. That means I give it 2 points, one which is the center point for that rectangle, and then if I go outwards without, so I'm not clicking anything right now. So when I click on another point, then this rectangle will be created. So I stop, and now when I hit OK, my rectangle will be created. You can also see it in the model tree as sketch 1. Alright, so now what we can do is make we can look at its dimensions. So what we can do is either double click here on the sketch and we can click on, first we can double click on it to see its dimensions. One moment. uh, so I got to select it properly. So another thing you can do is just hit Control E to edit definition, and it'll you can redefine its properties. So if I zoom in on it, this is my rectangle, and if I double click on it, now I can see my dimensions. Yeah, that's better. All right, so if I select it and I can sort of change these manually as well, but that's not as precise. So what I can do is I can double click, single click it, so I get this dimension tab and I can change it from here. So let's say I want it to be 300 mm. Now it's changed to 300 mm. I can also click here and change this, double click on the dimension. Let's say I want it to be 250 mm. So now my width has changed to 250 mm. Similarly, I can change the length. Let's say I want to make it 500 mm. So I can double click on this and type out 500 and it'll change my dimensions to 500 mm, and I can do it here as well. If I click the middle mouse button somewhere, or just the mouse button in fact, then I can now exit and my dimensions will be saved. Now if I let's say I have a 3D object, so what I'm going to do is first make this into a 3D object by extruding it, and and now I have a cuboid. So wait, let me fit it into my screen. Now I have a cuboid, and let's say I want to measure the different aspects of this cuboid, different faces of this cuboid. What I can do is I can go into analysis and select the measure option under the measure tab. So if I just select summary, it gives me this sort of floating menu, and then if I select a face, now I get a summary of what am I measuring on this surface. So the surface, its name f6, and we're measuring the area and the perimeter for this surface. If I hit control and then click another surface, now I'm uh, measuring the angle between these two surfaces. Since it's a cuboid, the angle between them is 90 degrees. Their combined area is 312,500 millimeters squared, and their combined perimeter is that much, 3,250 mm. If I hit control and select another surface, as you can see, again I get the area and perimeter. If I click on the middle mouse button, this menu disappears. Measure has other options as well. I can measure the length of an arc, in this case the edge. So if I just click on it, it tells me curve length is 500 mm. So a straight line is a type of a curve where it is not curved at all. Similarly, if I hit control and hit another edge, I get the combined length of these two edges. If I hit control and select this one, I get the combined length of these three edges that are highlighted in green. So again, if I click the middle mouse button somewhere, then all of this disappears. I can also measure the angle between two edges, for example, this one. And if I hit control and this one, I get the angle between these two surfaces. Similarly, I can measure the angle between other surfaces. So for example, this one and this one. These are two parallel lines, so the angle between them should be 0, as you can see. I can also measure the diameter, but since we don't have a circle here, it doesn't make any sense to measure the diameter. I can measure the area of a surface. So if I select this and I select this, I can measure the area of this surface, and the combined area by by holding down control and clicking the different surfaces. So I can also hit control and select this surface, hit control and select this surface, hit control and select this surface. Now this gives me the surface area if I select all the surfaces of this whole figure. Similarly, I can measure the volume. So when I click on this option and I select my object, it will give me the volume. And as you can see, it selects the whole body. So the whole object that I've created.